நீட் தேர்வு இல்லாத மருத்துவத்துறை சார்ந்த படிப்புகளுக்கு விநாயகா மிஷன் ஸ்கூல் ஆஃப் அலைட் ஹெல்த் சயின்ஸ், சேலம், சென்னை, பாண்டிச்சேரி.
டார்லிங் ஏசி திருவிழா இந்தியாவிலேயே மிக குறைந்த மாத தவணையில் ஏசி.
Wonder Diamonds, India's largest lab-grown diamond brand. Diamond prices starting from 22,800 per carat.
This interview was shot at Hibiscus Cafe, which is on ECR opposite Prathana Theatre. Hello Hemanth, welcome to Galatta Plus. Congratulations on turning producer. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about your Shivanna film. We'll talk about a lot of other things. But I want to see first, like, you know, when you debuted with Godibana versus what you are now, what has changed in you as a filmmaker?
I think I've become more scared as a filmmaker. I feel there's a certain kind of unabashed courage that you have when you're making your first film. It is very, as you sort of understand the world and the way the business works, the way theaters work, distributors work, right, there is a certain erosion of that, bravado and courage and innocence. It gets replenished with experience, knowledge and wisdom. So I find myself wondering which of the two is better. And I've realized that while I'm writing and trying to make my film, I feel trying to go back to that phase is more important, because you write with a sense of, a courage where you are demanding a certain kind of involvement from the audience as a filmmaker, which is hard to do today because film has become it is a very cynical world out there. Everybody is, at least social media feeds you that everybody is cynical. So taking decisions creatively is more challenging. So hence the fear.
So are you saying that when you start writing, see, because film as a medium, it's going out to other people, right?
Correct.
But at the same time, there are many authors, book writers who say that I write for an audience of one and that is myself, because I consider myself a part of the audience, and if working for me, then it's work for them. How do you balance these two things?
So for me, actually, it was very interesting in the sense my first film as an assistant director was with Mr. Girish Kasaroli. So with Girish sir, it was like we were making a film about the industrialization of the coastal belt. While working with the film, and he's a genius, like he's a master of the craft, and I'm getting to learn from him. So it was such a privilege and an honor. But while I was, partaking in the making of the film, we were shooting in those villages where the people would be affected. I knew very well that the film would never reach to them. It would only reach, an intellectual bunch somewhere, and they would appreciate the film or they would pass off on the craft of it. So I felt I don't want to use the word exploitative, but it kind of went into that zone. And I had a conversation with Girish sir about it. I was like, we are making this film about these people. Why is it that these people are not getting to watch it? He was like, my job is to make the film. It's somebody else has to come and take the film to those people, which I understand is fair. The problem with Indian cinema, at least what I have noticed, is that we wear too many hats. I not only have to write, direct, I also have to think about marketing. And the smaller the industry, the smaller the budgets, the more hats that we have to wear. So I realized that I want to gravitate towards a kind of cinema where whatever I'm trying to tell is very clearly to a certain audience, knowing that audience is important, and I have to walk halfway. That thing of I'm making the film for myself, you don't have to make the film then. You can sit at home and watch it in your head, right? And that is what Anand sir had told me once. He was like, it's important to make the film in such a way that there is an audience for it. So if it's a bridge, you walk halfway and you want the audience to walk the other half. So that is the kind of cinema that I subscribe to, and I have always tried to do. So that is also the kind of films that I want to produce as well.
Right. So first of all, you make Godibana, you make Kauludari, and then you make Saptasagarache, Yellow, Side A, Side B. So you're technically 4 films.
Correct.
If we consider those two as 2 films. With Saptasagarache, I felt I was seeing a Hemanth, because I've seen you write from your first film, who's suddenly become a different kind of filmmaker. I sensed a freedom, a lack of constraints, maybe. Because the thing is, Godibana's a father-son story, and it's very strictly a father-son story. I've liked all your films, but what I'm trying to say is that, and then Kavladari is a genre, like it's a mystery kind of a thing, a thriller kind of thing, and that's happening exactly like that, right? But Saptar Sagrache is like this little existentialism. Even though it's a love story, it suddenly it broadens, it breathes. There's a lot happening there. Did some change happen between the first two films and this film?
I also don't know, sir, exactly.
But you know what I'm saying?
I know.
And do you agree?
I kind of do.
Okay.
Because the way I felt after the process of making Sapta, it was very special in comparison to the first and second. I don't know the exact reasons why. Maybe because when I was making my first film, the amount of pressure as a first time filmmaker, because you have this notion built up that if your film doesn't work, your career is done, right? And it is kind of true in the sense that your first film doesn't do well, mounting your second film is harder. So I had that fear. So maybe I didn't quite enjoy the process as much as I should have. And I was kind of the co-producer for Godivanna also. So not kind of, I was. So, and with Kavladari, it was a very genre film. So it was that there was a certain template within which I was trying to create something. But Sapta definitely felt like I was able to sort of immerse myself. Probably COVID helped because the film the time that we took to make the film initially was supposed to be within a 1 year period. It kind of got pushed to two and a half years because of COVID. So maybe it was the time. It was also what was happening personally in my life. So I don't know. But yeah, it definitely felt I was able to express myself, and a lot of credit has to go to Rakshit for it, because not once did he ever worry about the creative positioning of the film.
Right.
When I told him about part 1, part 2, he backed me so blindly and with so much faith that it was easier for me to go and express myself.
Do you sometimes feel that people like you and Rakshit and all are fighting a very uphill and lone battle?
I don't like that idea or the image, but I do feel that way sometimes. That feels like we are, it feels like that Sisyphus rock where you're trying to push the rock up and then it rolls down. It does feel that way sometimes, but I don't think it's helpful to think that way.
No, it's not helpful, but
Yeah.
sometimes, at a bad moment, sometimes we have these thoughts, right?
Yeah.
It's like...
it does feel that way, because there are times when we put out good material, good content, it could be a good poster, it could, and the reception for it is kind of lukewarm. And I'm like, didn't you guys see? This is so nice. It happens, but it's part of the thing. I mean, you can't take these things too seriously.
No, and another reason I'm asking is because even in Tamil cinema, I'm seeing this thing where the excitement about these mass films, these big star films, the amount of publicity, the promotions, the excitement of the audience, everything is so disproportionately high that it's almost like they don't want to see anything else. I mean, there are these other 1 or 2 or 3 films that slip through the cracks and become big hits. We had a big hit in Dragon this year, for instance. But otherwise, it's all like, how was the movie? Mass. Like, what is as in, did you like it? Not like, what is mass? What does it mean? Like, everything has gotten reduced to a sensory experience. It's not emotional or anything like that. It's like whether I got goose flesh. Like, I recently watched a movie where people, when they heard a kind of music, they whipped out their smartphones because they wanted to record. They knew that a particular scene is coming and they had it out there and they wanted to record. And I'm sitting there surrounded by so many screens that are actually waiting to record that moment. It's like suddenly the audience has changed. It's like they don't want to, they want a particular kind of thing. And that's why I asked you that question. And the other thing I want to ask you is, when you were supposed to do this film with Shivraj Kumar, right?
Yeah.
Which is, did you want to say, like, okay, I've done this, I'm ready now for a big movie? Is that what went through your mind?
No, sir. I wanted to actually, I mean, it is a big film. I wanted to make a big film, but I want to do the big film my way. Like, there is a certain, like, the thing that you told about people picking up the phones. I've seen it and it really disturbs me, because the film is so good that people want to capture it and put it up on their Instagrams. And I'm like, it's heartbreaking because you're disconnecting from that moment for a bunch of likes. I just don't get that. But I understand that is the way forward. It's going to be more of that. Until unless there is strict, saying, because people are unlikely to self-correct. Because this behavior of using, that immediate reaction of watching something which is bigger than 4K right in front of you, but trying to capture it into, like 4K on a camera is somehow baked into us as a generation. And it is not just the young, the old do it, everybody does it. So I think we just have to adapt to it as much as possible. But it is very heartbreaking. I noticed it during Saptam. The reason why I'm picking on that is because it's something that has given me a lot of trauma. Because a lot of people were capturing the climax of the film and putting it up on their stories. And I was like, this is something that has to be experienced in a theater. It's not about the theatrical aspect of it. It's about letting the cat out of the bag. It's like watching something without context.
Yeah.
Watching something without a sense of, what leads to that point is why that point of hero elevation or a surprise twist is what is exciting. Somehow we are obsessed with the destination than the journey. And that is scary, which is why I said it's more scary today to make films. But that also means that I've always fought back. You should never concede and say, oh, that's how it is. Nobody's coming to theaters. Why should we do films? I think there is still an audience out there which we should try and cater to, who are loyalists, who want to watch good cinema, who want to, go there and support films and have that experience. And I want to make films, for that audience. I'm trying to stay true to that and sort of ignore this crowd that is loud. Just because they have an online presence doesn't mean that they represent the larger fabric of society. So that is a belief and sort of course correction that one has to make. The second part of your question, I completely...
No, you said you wanted to make a big star movie with Shivraj Kumar, but your way.
Yeah, what I'm trying to say is that I think it is important to have a filmmaker needs to have an individual identity. If I am making a film that looks like anybody else's film, then I am failing as a creative individual. The whole purpose of making a film, whole purpose of writing a story, and when it says a film by so and so, it needs to have some identity of mine, So I want to do those kind of films too. I want to do a, big budget action film, but I want to do it in my way where I want to develop character. I want to build the world, and it is going to be all of those, but my interpretation of it. And I have seen a lot of great filmmakers who have aspired and delivered on those things. And I want to take a leaf out of that book and see, how can I do that in my way?
Now, you write the movie, you start prep, and then Shivraj Kumar has to go for his treatment. And obviously that's more important because that's always, movie can wait, that comes first. But still, even though your rational mind understands that that's more important, the fact that you've gotten this far and a movie just stalls, how do you process that and get out of it?
It was very difficult, and it's something that it's a good learning. It was at the point when it happened, I was very heartbroken, very disturbed, because I found out, my producer and I, we found out about the news when we had just done a meeting where we had sort of, looked at all the miniature sets, and we had looked at a huge piece of land, and we were supposed to erect sets. So plans were in the way to sort of begin that construction when we found out. On a tangent, there's a very nice quote that I had read when Rahul Dravid gave a BITS Pilani commencement speech about how he was not picked for the Indian team. And he talks about how the bamboo grows. Like the first 3 months, you don't see the bamboo, but it grows so tall in a short period of time that it's sort of, strengthening its roots. So you have to rely on such external motivations to sort of make sense and feel like, okay, this is a delay is good. It allows you to make a better film, or there's some other plan. You have to adapt. There's you walk through the door that opens, and many times, and you have to do what is the best in that scenarios. And I think we're trying to do that.
You're turning producer a way of handling the fact that you have a gap in your schedule?
No. This production thing, actually, Agnyathavasi, I decided to produce when Sapta, we had a COVID break, I got the script then. And Jana is a filmmaker I really admire. I've known him for a while. And his first film was, what was remarkable about it was complete new cast, completely new concept, total rank outsiders come and deliver a film which is about 2.5 crores, and they break even and make a little bit of profit. And he was struggling to mount a second film. And I was like, that is not right. You know, there is a guy who is shown out of 250 films, he's delivered a film that is actually, you know, showing return on investment. But how come he's not getting work? That was always bugging me. So when he told me that he had a script and he just wanted to share it. So I read the script and I was like, I love the material and it's exciting. And it's a difficult film at that point of time because it is not your usual run-of-the-mill, you know, it's a genre film. So I was like, do you have a producer? He said, I don't have a producer. So I said, I will produce it. I didn't know how, where, you know. I was like, I'll figure it out. And that's how this happened.
But how does one become a producer? Like, seriously, like, you just break all your fixed deposits and become a producer, is it?
I have whatever I've earned through cinema, I've put it back into cinema, sir. And that's how I've become a producer. I have a couple of investors who have come on board.
Okay.
Who are, you know, taking half the load from me.
It's a bit like a startup. You get a venture capitalist
Correct.
an angel investor, that kind of a thing. So it's like that.
Yeah. And the two investors, one is Jana Pictures and one my partner Prachura. Both of them, the thing they subscribe to the kind of film and my creative sensibilities, and they have shown enormous faith because the film we announced 2 years ago. It's releasing now. The delay was because we were not able to get good business.
You're talking about Agnyathavasi.
Yeah.
Okay.
We were not able to get a good, you know, the market was really bad. Nobody is picking up films. So when I decided to wait, they sort of backed me and said, it's okay, you know, we'll do what is right for the film. So to find investors like that is very rare. So I'm very thankful for them. But going about producing the film is that there is a huge gap that I see where as an audience member, I am not seeing the film out there that, you know, that I would want to go. So I'm trying to produce those kind of films. You know.
So would it be safe now to tell the camera that Hemanth Rao is willing to read interesting scripts from first-time filmmakers?
Oh yeah. I've been doing that for a while now actually.
To
produce also.
Okay.
Yeah, I definitely have plans to produce 5-6 films a year, you know, going forward. And that is something that I am actively looking at because I've always looked at my career from the perspective of me and Rakshit used to have these conversations during Godivanda where we are like, it shouldn't be this hard to make a film like this because it was quite a struggle to put that film together. We were like, we should be in a position where we can produce films every year. You know, we make our films, we also produce films and basically make an earning just through this, right? And I don't know to do anything else. I don't know how to, you know, how a restaurant business work. I don't know how to do any of those businesses. So I know films, I know cinema, I know the audience. So I think I know. So I want to, you know, try and live up to that conversation that I've had with Rakshit many times. He has done his end of the deal. I'm trying to stick to mine.
I saw that Instagram post of yours and it was very touching about why you named the film a company after your mother. And also, you know, you said that this is a very interesting part about how you were very energetic as a kid and she enrolled you in a library.
Yes.
And that's kind of how you got into the world of stories.
Yeah.
And that was just a very lovely, you know, something that connected and, you know, brought you here kind of a thing. So
It is true. I mean, I remember I was extremely restless and I was quite one of those naughty kids. When there's nothing around, I would take something and put it in my nose or put it in my ear, and then she would have to rush me to the hospital types. So I think she was like, I have to find some hack. I think if I was born today, she would give me a smartphone, and you know, but reading changed it for me because I was really, you know, that whole going into that world and sort of watching life through different characters was very fascinating. So yeah, I'm very thankful for.
Do you have a favorite book?
It keeps changing, sir. There's no one.
Yeah, but something
book.
that struck you.
No, there's no one book that sort of that really made an impact. But it's all moments and different. It's like how I don't have a favorite film. I have.
No, no. For me, if you ask me, it's like even though I don't subscribe to that philosophy, when I read The Fountainhead, when I was in, I think I was in my teens, something, right? It's like and at that point is when you're probably most idealistic about the world, because you're like, because you haven't seen cynicism yet.
Correct.
You haven't yet encountered negativity, much negativity. The max is you say, let's go and have a samosa, and your friend says, no, I'm not coming with you. And that's the level of,
it's very innocent.
So when I read that book at that point, it was like, wow, this is how the world should be. And I know a lot of people have problems with Ayn Rand's philosophy and all that, but the book just shattered me when I read it then. I don't know if I'll react to it the same way now. I mean, something like that is what I was trying.
For me, like that way, I would say when I started developing intellect in terms of not just looking at it from a story perspective, but start seeing the sort of layers of society, was Aldous Huxley's Brave New World. That really shaped the way. I mean, it really, like, it led me to read Dose of Perception. A lot of Aldous Huxley, lot of sci-fi actually, when I think about it, because it sort of shows a futuristic version of man, and thereby sort of like what we are observing with AI, with all difficult questions are somehow handled, right? So that I would say really influenced me.
I'd like to see you make a sci-fi film, because
I want to.
because my favorite sci-fi films are these very slightly bleak ones, like Duncan Jones' Moon. Have you seen it?
Yeah.
I just like, or there's that Gattaca.
Gattaca,
Those kinds of films which really, or even recently you had that Alicia Vikander film, Ex Machina.
Ex Machina,
yeah. Those kinds of
very bleak,
slightly bizarre. They really put you in a sci-fi world. It's not just people doing battles in outer space, like that. This is genuinely imagining a world through science and what it could be, right?
Correct.
Like that would be nice. Anyway, we're like kind of. But one thing I want to ask you before we get back to your production is, you've often mentioned that Truffaut and watching the 400 Blows was a very, very formative influence in your career. Why?
Because I watched that film when I was at the crossroads of sort of figuring out what kind of films I want to make. Like, I knew I wanted to do films. I was still sort of looking.
This was what age roughly?
I was about 21, sir. Okay. 21, 22, I think. I was just out of college and I knew I wanted to do cinema because I liked writing, I liked photography, I liked music. And cinema became sort of the perfect, envelope for all three. And I started watching a lot of films. And I was watching a lot of Indian films, Kannada, Hindi, Tamil, Telugu. The first time I actually saw a Truffaut film was in Suchitra. They do this, they just show 8 films, 9 films in a month for like 50 rupees.
Yeah.
So I was like, I became a member and I watched 400 Blows, and what I was going through, the kid is kind of stuck, he's confused, he doesn't know where to look for answers. The film sort of spoke about those things in a very indirect way.
Yeah.
And I sort of just connected. I didn't know the language, just the eyes of the kid, Antoine, really stayed with me, and it kept haunting me. I was like, what is this kind of film,
Yeah.
And I watched those films back to back, and I realized, okay, there are...
You've seen all 5?
Yeah, of course. I've seen, and I was like, what is this cinema? And it just made me curious. And I'm one of those extremely curious persons that if I liked Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, I would go and look up what else has he written.
Yeah.
If I like an album, if I like one singer, I will go and listen to all the albums possible. So I'm like that. I'm just generally curious like that. So I sort of keep falling into different rabbit holes. So all the discovery of world cinema happened through that rabbit hole of 400 Blows.
Fantastic. When you are a producer, right, it's taking away some of the energy that you have, mental energy that you have, that you want to devote to being a filmmaker.
Not really, sir. I actually quite enjoy it. I'm very compartmentalized as a person. Like, for me, the way I function in everyday life also, I'm extremely compartmentalized. My boundaries are very clear, and so I actually quite enjoy the role of being a producer. Where it gets a little tricky, or where it gets a little is when I am when I read the script, when I am explaining my concerns to the writer, director, I have to make sure that I don't cross that line and take away their creative liberty. So I have to allow them to go out and make their film, but at the same time be this person who is like, maybe this is not going to work. So that is somewhere where I feel a little drained, because having those difficult conversations, it is hard. So that is the only place. But otherwise, it's quite compartmentalized, because I have a good team, that sort of can look into the daily functionings of it. And I have sort of, because of Godibanna and Kavludari and Sapta to a large degree, I am used to wearing those different hats, where I'm thinking about marketing, when I'm editing, when I'm doing music, and pre-production, and the financial aspect of planning the project. I've done it already, so it is a lot more easier for me to do that.
Right. Now, I don't want to make too big a point of this, but you've spoken very openly about the fact that the last few years of your mother's life were quite traumatic in terms of, because she was battling cancer, but she was doing it bravely. But still, you were witnessing something that was that was inevitable, or whatever it is, right? Do you think that maybe that helped your growth as an artist as well in some way? Because, like, I'm asking if pain, because there is this whole bunch of movies and all that where you have of the suffering artist who endures a lot of pain and is therefore able to channel a lot of that pain into his or her work. Do you think that's true?
I have found myself to be true, sir, because a lot of what I was going through, because I am a writer, I am a filmmaker, it finds its way into my writing. Not directly, it's not that my character is suffering from cancer, but those are emotions that I have to find an outlet through. Maybe through my stories, especially while working on Sapta, it was, there have been, many times where I've gone to the hospital and then gone to the shoot and stuff like that. So it was challenging that way. But yeah, it's very weird in the sense that usually the weird thing about cancer, I think, is that the finality of it is something that we are not privy to as human beings. You don't know when you're going to go. But when somebody tells, okay, this is how much time you have, and probably 98% that is what is going to happen, you sort of know in the back of your head that you're sort of going towards a particular, and that changes the way you look at life. It constantly reminds you that time here is limited, right? So it definitely has, I want to make good use of the time that I have. Which is why I want to be part of more stories. I'm sort of double down on that initial urge that I had of wanting to be, making X number of films, but producing number of films, writing number of films. So I want to do all those things in the limited time that I have. So yeah, it definitely has found a way to,
Now, I've already seen a genre film from you in Kavladari. How is Agnyathavasi going to be different?
It's the setting is very different. What I really was impressed by when I read the script was the screenplay, in terms of how the story unfolds. Something that I felt was very interesting, and it immediately caught my attention. And the nature of the subject, it's quite clever in the way he's presented a genre piece. Because the thing about genre pieces is that usually you kind of figure out where the killer is, or who the killer is, and it's either a who done it or why, and so on and so forth. This is a good mixture of who and why. It's very interesting, and I as a person who has watched a lot of these films, I thought this is kind of what it's trying to do at a script level was very fascinating for me.
Yeah,
And fresh.
Okay, and I'd say the same thing about Sapta Sagaja, because when you think that you're going to watch a love story, but suddenly it just balloons into this very, very big question mark about what is love. What do you do for love? It's not just about whether these two guys, because most love stories are boy meets girl, boy loses girl, boy gets girl, and that's the rough thing. And how interestingly can you treat this format, right? And that's why it's called a genre, because we go to genre films expecting a certain progression of things. But when I saw Sapta, I was like I was so not prepared for this thing, because right from the start there's that hint of sadness, melancholy undercurrent that's going on throughout, because he doesn't have a great job or whatever it is. Do you think that genre films can be true to the genre and yet not a genre film?
I think it's.
And is Agnyathavasi one of those films?
I would put it in that category for sure, because the interesting thing about a genre film is that usually the thing about, you know, why, like for example, if it's a horror film, what I really like is when they bend it and sort of add a angle to it where they add comedy to it. It's, you don't expect it.
Yeah.
You're going there to be scared, but somehow they're able to do both, which is, you know, which is ballsy, and it's like it's very interesting as a creative person. So, and I think the audience also finds things like that interesting when you rework a recipe and present it slightly differently and still make it palatable, make it tasty. I don't see the reason why, you know, there wouldn't be takers for it. I would definitely put Agnyathavasi in that bracket, I think, because it is like a genre film, but still it's not. It's done something different. So yeah.
Now, what's your next film?
I'm actually writing something because Bhairavan Konepada is taking a little bit of time. So I'm working on something that is, again, it's not a genre film, but it is a genre film. So yeah.
Do you enjoy writing?
It's miserable, but that's what makes it fun.
Right.
I do enjoy it.
Right. And how do you write? Like, do you write bits and pieces?
No, sir. My writing process is very weird in the sense that I write when I walk my dogs. So, like, it's like a thought process that runs in my head. So, once I sort of access that thought process, there is writing happening constantly. So, there are several drafts being rewritten. But finally, when I sit down.
And what, you do voice notes or something?
No, nothing. It's just in my head.
Okay.
I have.
That all stays.
All stays somehow,
Oh, wow.
thankfully. Yeah,
Okay.
all stays somehow.
Okay.
But I do have, because of technology, I'm a big believer in adapting technology as a tool. So I do these, you know, notes and note-keeping apps and WhatsApp group where it's just me and one more me. So I message that other person and just, you know, sometimes when the idea is complex, I just write down the sort of the beginning, middle and end of the idea or the emotional vibe of the idea. And then I revisit it when I actually sit down to write. So yeah, that's usually my writing process.
I wanted to explain this part. So how did Saptasagar come about in terms of what was you said that the juxtaposition at the end of part A is what was initially in your mind.
Correct.
How do you reverse engineer it and then bring about the beginning? What happens then?
No, I didn't reverse engineer it. First, I witnessed an actual hit and run case, and that sort of got me thinking because I realized somebody else was going in for a crime that they didn't commit. So then I started writing the story of that person, like what life did that person have, what was the stakes at, you know, what was it there for him, and then I realized people usually accept these things because when, you know, a film when I watch, when the head villain says you go kill him, we remove agency of character from the person who is going to execute the crime, but there is an actual character there.
Yeah.
For me, that was very interesting. I was like, the guy who goes inside, what if the life is about him? What if the film is about the guy who goes and does the crime? Because it's not just that he's completely, you know, just brain dead. There is some emotional impact to him. He has a life and, you know, he has his own family. So that's how it sort of grew. And as I went on that journey, that idea of him having that first outburst and the marriage sort of felt similar. And that's how that scene
Right.
is
And
correct.
so when we extend it to the second part, side B, without giving away spoilers for those who have not seen the movie yet, and I would strongly urge people to watch it. But how did the part about him being a guardian angel / stalker / guy with a god complex, how did that come about? Because that was like that was the part that blew my mind. It's like, again, I have to spoil this, but I don't want to do it. But yeah, that was.
For me, it was what I had seen in a lot of films, again, was that usually the guy who does a lot of sacrifices for whatever, for the other character, for a person that he loves. It could be mother, father, sister, brother, lover, blah, blah, or a dog. Invariably, in the climax of the film, they find out, right? And the whole thing feels very selfish. It's like if you are generous as a person, you be generous. Don't go tell somebody about it, right? That I felt like, it's the most selfish thing to do if you are actually telling somebody that, hey, I helped you out. That nullifies the help that you have done because you're remembering it and sort of mentioning it. It is not coming from a pure place because you're attaching your sense of purpose and your identity to the help that you have provided. So I wanted to treat it as from the perspective of a character who takes responsibility for his actions. He holds himself, extremely responsible for the way he derailed her life from his perspective. And the optics are so skewed in his head that he is not able to separate his sort of responsibility of guilt versus encroaching on our boundary.
Yeah.
And I wanted to write that space. It's a difficult space to explore because especially in today's climate, it's oh, he's stalking her, he's doing this. I know those are all wrong things. There are characters constantly telling him that you're wrong, you shouldn't be doing this. But he's still doing it because he's not mentally okay. So that was fun for me to explore. I mean, that's how I looked at it.
I'm glad you said that because one of the things that I always keep having arguments about, and I'm not saying I'm right or wrong or whatever it is but I tend to look at fiction as a self-enclosed world.
Correct.
If somebody's flawed there, they are flawed.
Yeah.
I don't want them to, I may not want to be friends with them in real life, but I'm very interested, if they're written well, I want to follow that journey.
Correct.
I don't necessarily want them to adhere to today's notions of, oh, is he stalking her, is he not stalking her, or whatever it is, because that's the story.
Correct.
I don't have a right to pass a judgment on the story.
Correct.
I can pass a judgment on whether the story affects me or not.
Correct.
But I can't question why did you do this.
Correct.
Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, 100%. It has to be looked at within context again. For me, if the filmmaker is very clearly defining the context and saying that this character is troubled, then I don't see any reason why somebody would take something else. The thing is, I think what happens, at least this is my understanding of it, cinema is such a powerful medium that I have been so influenced that I have taken life-changing decisions basis of film. I watch something, it inspires me so much or it breaks me so much that it affects me mentally. Not everybody is like that, right? And people who have a problem with films sending the wrong messaging are also people who are influenced by film, who think that the rest of the world is like that. The rest of the world is not probably like that. They watch a film, okay, and they move on, right? It has the power to influence, but you don't, as a filmmaker, I can't sit with that power thinking, oh, okay, I have to, influence the right way. Then I become a moral science lecture. It is not a story. As a story, it is exciting to look at life through different lenses to make you empathetic towards difficult characters who are not likable in real life. That is the whole purpose of writing. And I think that is what I was trying to do. Like, even examine things like the way pure love is shown. Sex is not associated with it somehow. The body, the demands of the body, and I think it's a mature thing to explore that.
I'm just like going to have a thumbnail set that says the demands of the body. that will become a blockbuster interview.
No, but for me, I was like,
sorry, just please carry on.
This character is not, has not been intimate for 10 years with another person, and I felt that's a thing that I want to speak about, and it's an interesting aspect. And there also for me, what I really like to do was he's meeting this girl. You're
talking about Chaitra.
Yeah, Surabhi's character.
Yeah.
It's almost like the antithesis of Priya. The whole facade that society follows, or the way we go about it is when you meet another person, you're trying to present a best version of yourself. And over the course of the relationship, those masks sort of get removed bit by bit. And the true person is revealed to the other person. This takes a lot of time. I wanted to flip it. He's meeting somebody, sleeping with that person in the very first encounter. Then they ask each other their names. So I wanted to see how would that relationship, it's almost like the dual nature of the sea. In that sense. So that was the thinking.
I've never seen, like in recent times, a film that took me through such a huge arc of a guy. From an innocent guy who just wants money, the entire arc that he goes through over the course of 2 films is is phenomenal, and that's why I even earlier I said that, you know, something is it sounds a little very looks very different from the Hemanth Rao who made this film and the guy who did the first two films. But I hope you have a very big success in Agnyathavasi, and thank you as always. It's a pleasure.
Thank you.
And thank you for giving me my thumbnail.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. It's always a
No,
pleasure.
I'm kidding. We won't use that, but it's like sometimes you just you want people to watch the interviews, right?
Correct.
It's just very very it's like you just mentioned that sometimes you want it to be about you and something that's about the movie or whatever it is, but then there's this pressure of use Rakshit's name or use Shivraj Kumar's name.
Correct.
Or and that has nothing to do with this movie.
Correct.
It's like we're not talking about Sapta, we're talking about something else, right? So that's a battle again. So
No, I understand. I mean, even from when you're promoting the film, I'm trying to be as authentic as possible.
Yeah.
I'm trying to position the film as something that has to be consumed. My biggest issue is that a lot of people are watching films, but they're watching it in the comfort of their homes. And these films will survive only if they come to theaters.
Yeah.
So I have to go out and I'm always thinking, what do I say that can get people excited, saying, okay, I will watch this in the theater.
right,
So it's challenging.
Watch it in a theater and like say that, because the thing is, I think the one guaranteed audience puller is the big star movie.
Correct.
That's the one that
Correct.
people, you don't typically have to sell it that much.
Correct.
But the others, they're very strange beasts, because I've seen some very interesting Kannada films of late, but I think the star cast is so small that people just feel like they don't. They become it is always there, but now more so. There's a direct proportionality between the size of the star cast, and the audience's willingness to go watch the movie.
No, but to add to that, what I would say, I think it is changing, sir, because these films that you're talking about are not going to be on OTT because there are no buyers anymore. They're not picking up these films. So these films are going to be only accessible in theaters. So I hope the audience is cognizant of that and it changes. So
Nice. We'll keep our fingers crossed, and all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
நீட் தேர்வு இல்லாத மருத்துவத்துறை சார்ந்த படிப்புகளுக்கு விநாயகா மிஷன் ஸ்கூல் ஆஃப் அலைட் ஹெல்த் சயின்ஸ் சேலம், சென்னை, பாண்டிச்சேரி.
டார்லிங் ஏசி திருவிழா இந்தியாவிலேயே மிக குறைந்த மாத தவணையில் ஏசி.
Wonder Diamonds, India's largest lab-grown diamond brand. Diamond prices starting from 22,800 per carat.